Hello, and welcome to Doctor Me. My name is Heather.
And I'm Kathleen.
And I am pumped for this week because we are covering Stevie. This is my absolute favorite documentary. It's one of those films I've seen like 20 times, and there's still new stuff to notice, like, each time. So many great quotes. Some hot stuff. I almost wanted to be like, fuck spending time with your children, come over, let's watch this together.
No dirty dancing.
So Stevie is a 2002 film directed by Steve James, who is best known for directing Hoop Dreams, which is considered like one of the greatest documentaries of all time. And then there's this film.
Also one of the greatest documentaries of all time.
I even saw an interview. He's like, I get so many questions about this documentary, and it's not even my biggest, most watched one. Because he's got a list of them.
So interesting. We need so much story.
It took 4.5 years to make this film. So I will make sure I emphasize Steve and Stevie. Steve is the director, and Stevie is the train wreck.
He's such a train wreck. Like, holy fuck.
And if you want a fun drinking game with this, take a shot every time you see Harley Davidson merch.
You will die.
You'll be taking them back to back, and sometimes it's
the Confederate flag.
Oh
like, it's literally like, I am pretty sure I have family like this.
All right, let's do this. I'm so excited.
Woot, woot.
This film is a great example of, if you're in a small town, get the fuck out.
Yeah, don't fucking stay where you grew up.
1982, while attending Southern Illinois University, go Salukis, director it's a dog, Steve James became a big brother to Stevie Fielding. Big brother meaning he's with the Big Brother Big Sister of America program, which is a nonprofit group that matches adults, volunteers with kids as young as 5 who are usually like at risk.
Not that his mom had another baby.
No, just sort of mentor them, hang out with them, just keep them out of trouble. Stevie was a troubled 11-year-old who lived in Pomona, Illinois, which is such a small town. There currently isn't a post office. It's unincorporated, and even the county it's in is small with only 53,000 people, which is basically the population of this town I live in.
That's insane.
That's the county.
Jesus. Everyone knows everyone's business.
10 years later, in July 1995, Steve James goes back to visit this kid he mentored.
And it's such the 90s. Like, when you're watching this, God. Like, you can tell that it's, like, the 90s and, like...
So that's basically what this film is all about, how this kid has fared over the years, and then it becomes so much more.
Yeah, there's quite a twist.
So Steve already has apprehension about this. It's one of those stories where even as a young guy, he knew this kid didn't stand a chance. He knew he shouldn't abandon him, and yet when he didn't have to do the visits anymore, he was glad, which is sad. We meet Stevie, who comes out on crutches and couldn't even be bothered to put on a shirt.
Which is like your number one, like, redneck red flag.
He's got countless shitty tattoos and typical early 90s haircut and Jeffrey Dahmer glasses.
Honestly, he gave me Jeffrey Dahmer vibes.
We also meet Stevie's half-sister, Brenda, and his step-grandmother, who basically was the one who raised him. Let's talk about those tattoos. He claims he did the one that's high up on his arm, which I don't know how he would have been able to.
I don't think he did that. That
seemed kind of hard to be able to reach.
He said the other ones he got from someone who, like, learned how to do them in prison.
Yeah, well, the one up on his arm's, like, the best-looking one. There's no way he could have done that himself with, like, no training. Yeah, he says the rest are done by a buddy. Can we talk about the one on the same arm? It looks like a turtle with a skull for the head, and there's like a Confederate and the Gadsden flag, and it's got flames shooting out of it, and it says "Ride to live, live to ride," with like capital letters like scattered throughout it.
He was like, "Is this from your motorcycle days?"
Yeah. Like, I don't know what the fuck that tattoo was. Listen to the guy talk. It's clear he's a fucking mess. Like, he is not all there. Steve gets more into why he drifted away from Stevie. He was looking forward to having a kid who was into sports, and Stevie's, I cannot stress enough, is a wreck.
He was not the child that he was
clearly not athletic and just getting into trouble. The next scene is Stevie just playing with a fucking snake.
He's talking about how, like, he's not afraid of them, and then he's like, he's like, I've never been afraid of them, and he's like, well, I used to be as a kid, or whatever. And then, like, I guess he got in trouble for, like...
God, I'm crying. Okay.
Something with a...
Not that far into this.
Something about, like, a snake and, like, some kids or something like that. Like,
I can't follow half his stories. He's wearing all white, which makes no sense when he explains he found the snake when it came out of a brush pile he was burning. Like, why are you wearing all white? You're working outside.
Okay, let's be fair. Do you think that, like, he keeps his whites fresh?
I guess. But nothing says, like, I'm gonna go work out in the yard. Got on my best of white clothes. And everyone calls him Snake because he ain't afraid of them, except not once in this over 2-hour film does anyone call him Snake. And he's wearing this necklace with an 8-ball on it that looks like something you'd get out of a quarter machine as you're leaving a Chinese buffet. Like when your parents are paying and you're just by the door waiting.
The shit I always throw away when my kids get it.
Yeah. Verna, his step-grandmother, you start off, like, feeling bad for this woman.
I felt like she was, like, my grandma.
Yeah.
And like I said, like, I have some family that's, like, not too far off from, like, this kind of life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and yeah, it's just, like, I feel for her in the beginning, and I'm like, oh, that sweet old lady raising him and being such a good grandma, and, like,
especially with the stories she gives. She's still taking care of this dude because, again, his abusive mother
he's
has
like almost
kicked
30.
him out. Yeah, I think when this starts, he's like 23 or something. Like, he's not that young, but not that old. And his response to her mentioning this is, I don't have a mother. I never had one. And on the day she dies, I'm going to go laugh at her. But he doesn't have a mother.
I want to laugh at her grave.
It's such a childish thing to say. But I think it says a lot about this
Honestly,
dude.
A lot of the stuff that he says reminds me of, like, my 8-year-old when she's throwing a fit. Like, when she's mad about something. Like,
when Stevie was 6 months old, Verna's son, Arvel, the names in this, married Stevie's mom, Bernice, and then one weekend they just abandoned Stevie with Verna and her husband, Roy. And when they eventually came back, Arvel and Bernice made it clear they didn't want Stevie back because he wasn't Arvel's kid. Which is really sad.
It's really sad. Do you know, like, while I was watching this, I almost wondered if there's more to the backstory of why she doesn't have, like, this bond with him. Like, a part of me wondered if maybe he was, like, the product of, like, an assault or something.
But she doesn't talk. No, they said later on, like,
that
she was with somebody who was a married man who wouldn't leave his wife for her, and I don't know.
Yeah, I ended up seeing that part, and I was like, okay, maybe not, but...
So, yeah, it's really fucking awful.
There seems to be some shame.
Yeah. It's really fucking awful when you realize that his mom and stepdad lived just 50 yards down the road from his step-grandparents.
Yeah, like, they literally... Like,
to be able to see your mom and your mom
spitting
doesn't
distance.
Acknowledge you, that's... Oh, my God, it's bad. But good on Verna and Roy, taking this kid that's not even blood. His mom was incredibly abusive to the point he needed speech therapy because he just became mute due to being beaten.
Which is just, like, mind-blowing.
And then there's not many words now that he don't speak real plain, according to Verna, which... Don't know about that. We'll get into some more of the things he says. Like, I can't imagine abusing a kid. Like, I can understand not liking a kid. But you just avoid the parents. You don't take it out on the children. And then to do it to your own kid. Like, what the fuck?
Like, I had to bring their ass into this world. Like, I don't want anything to happen to them.
There's plenty of kids I didn't like, and I just stopped hanging out with their parents. Problem solved. Like, not a big deal.
Yeah, like...
There's a reason I still hang out with you. I allow your children to come over.
My kids are only assholes to me.
And now we get into the uncomfortable part where we meet his girlfriend.
I didn't know how to feel about this.
Also, he got her that teddy bear that's got that hot stuff on there. That's one of my favorite lines.
When he said that he had a girlfriend, I was like, what? And then when I saw her, I was like, oh.
Yes. His girlfriend, Tanya, who he's been with for 2 years, she's got some intellectual disabilities. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
Anyway, she doesn't understand why her parents don't like Stevie just because he wrecked her car, he drinks, and he does marijuana.
Which, like, those are all shitty things to have. Like.
I feel like she thinks he's a good boyfriend just because he doesn't physically abuse her.
I mean, I've done all of those things, but, like...
Steve's wife, Judy, stops by for a visit, and she was the one who encouraged Steve to become a big brother mentor. They've been together since college, so she's aware of who Stevie is. We learned that when Stevie was 19 or 20, he married a woman who was 34. It's a little problematic, who has 3 kids. Also named Judy, who apparently he had a crush on Judy, Steve's wife, when he was young.
Yeah, like when he's in the back of the car and he's like, I think you had a crush on Judy, didn't you? And he's like, you want me to answer that in front of my fiance?
Yeah. Would love to ask a few questions to this woman who married this dude 14 years younger than her.
Like, first of all, what the fuck? Second of all, why? Third of all, like, what were you thinking?
Had you met this guy before? The marriage only lasted about 5 months and was abusive.
And she had kids.
She had kids, which makes me question why the marriage ended so quickly when you get further into this film.
Yeah, it worries me.
I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it gives you pause.
Should we say allegedly again?
Allegedly. Also, probably not a good idea for Steve and Judy to have their 3 young kids standing there while Stevie's talking about the physical altercation he had with his ex-wife.
Can we talk about how, like, awkward it was while he's talking about that, and then I see him, like, trying to, like, guide the children away from, like...
later.
Because, like...
That was later on.
That kid was just staring at him like, what the fuck did my parents get me into?
The way Steve presents his kids is fucking weird. He's like, here's what we've been up to. Like, remember how I haven't seen you all these years?
We've been banging it.
This broad. Look what we made.
We've been banging it out for the last couple of years.
Judy and Stevie are at the dining table discussing how Stevie tried to kill his mom by cutting her brakes on her car, but instead cut the electronics wire while this is when Steve's like quickly trying to usher the kids out of the room.
These poor kids. Like, there are so many reasons.
All right, Jack, let's go. We gotta go. And Stevie's just cracking up, not reading the room at all. like you're talking about attempted murder around the youth. Let's button it up.
They're not even like older youth. They're like little kids.
These kids are like all under the age of 10. But he enjoyed them all coming down to visit him. Stevie comments on how he never imagined Steve and Judy having kids, but, you know, people changes. I had to fight my computer trying to change so much grammar in this. People changes.
I had closed captioning on, as I always do.
You kind of have to for parts of this.
And I was like... Well,
he's right. People do be changing. Something Stevie didn't mention to them and that Steve discovers is that Stevie has quite the arrest history that includes assaults.
He had a huge rap sheet.
Not just assault, weapon possessions, and credit card fraud. And despite feeling guilty for how this kid's life has gone, Steve doesn't visit him again for 2 more years.
Yeah, and honestly, like, bro, you gotta think about your kids.
I know, but like, I feel so much guilt for abandoning him, and then just doesn't show back up for a couple years. March 1997, Steve tries calling, and the only person he can get into contact with is Verna. Verna lets him know that Stevie has been arrested a few days prior for molesting his 8-year-old cousin. Didn't expect that twist coming into this, did you?
I did not, and I am both shocked and appalled.
Yeah, it gets fucking dark. Verna says Stevie was framed and his mother was behind it. Because moms. That's what they do.
Who was asking this man to babysit?
They get into it later.
He's essentially a child himself.
They get into it later. And despite writing a confession, Stevie says he was manipulated and he's going to plead innocent.
Which is
and
like,
they show the letter.
I want to say allegedly, but like, he confessed to doing it.
And the letter, like, what did he... Took away her virginity? Something, like... It's rough, like, the words he uses.
I saw something about, like, he touched her top half and then he touched her bottom half.
Yeah, I'm like, nobody is telling you to write this down. Like,
I do
you
not.
listen to the way the man talks. Like, this is...
I don't think the police officers were like,
No.
and then you touched her top part, and then...
you tried to take away her virginity.
Which, again, she's 8. Like, I have an 8-year-old, and that's
Yeah.
fucking insane.
Like, so, yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but the dude is charged with 3 felonies. So Bernice is behind him being in prison, and yet she's consistently visiting
him in prison, which is so mind-blowing. Like,
the relationship's bizarre. Despite Stevie claiming his innocence, his own sister Brenda believes in his guilt because
he also molested her.
He also molested her when they were younger. And he also told her he did it. And this is when I get pissed off at Verna, because she defends Stevie by saying he was just a kid when that happened. Just not at all acknowledging how, like, Brenda feels about this.
Yeah, like
yeah,
she
molested you, but
he was just
young.
a kid. Yeah,
like,
she was also just
yes.
a kid. Like, it's fucking wild.
So we start seeing how all of this could have happened. This kid who suffered abuse and neglect and then had a caregiver who just keeps making excuses for his behavior. Shit's gonna end bad. Everyone wants to find a way to help Stevie, but at this point, he's in his mid-20s. Like, what are you really gonna be able to do?
Exactly. He has free will, and he's now done something completely heinous.
Yeah.
Like,
we go over to Tanya's parents' house. I hated how in front of Tanya, her mother's like, we didn't like the guy, but she doesn't really have a lot of options because of her situation, so we overlook some things. Jesus Christ.
yeah, like, what the fuck? Like, have a little bit more, like, pride in your child.
She doesn't have a lot of options. Look at her. Tanya says the relationship's over, but they're still exchanging letters. Stevie needs money because he thinks having a woman lawyer defending him is the worst thing.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, what
Which
the
seems
fuck?
like the opposite when you're being accused of molesting a little girl. He says he can get one of those lawyers who says they'll get you off on any charges, but then turn around and just settle with the DA so they can collect their money as quickly as possible. Steve refuses to pay for this lawyer.
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
August 1997, Steve gets a call from Stevie, who asked to borrow $100 for bail. Needing to borrow $100 is rough. Like, you can't find $100 on your own. Just needs $100 cash. So he says it. And it's only $100 because the lady lawyer got the confession thrown out.
Yeah, like, that was amazing.
Insane.
Like, he literally, like, wrote that shit and signed it. Yes. And, like...
And it's, like, written in his voice.
Told other people that he did it, and they got that shit thrown out.
Yeah,
like,
he can get out. He just needs $100 cash. And Steve's like, like, doesn't know what to say.
And he wants to do it.
And then lets us know that Judy told him, fuck no, we're not going to be responsible for letting a predator on the street, because Judy is a counselor that works with sex offenders. So she's a bit of an expert on the subject.
Yeah, I can't believe that it took his wife saying, like, no.
I wish they would have filmed that, like, her, no!
Are you crazy?
Why are you even asking?
Like, yeah, it's only $100, but, like, it's $100 going to the wrong thing.
Yeah, she
Use your $100 to buy that 8-year-old a teddy bear and some fucking candy.
She recognizes that, yeah, with the way this dude grew up, like, this kind of thing isn't shocking, and he's definitely guilty.
But we can't encourage it.
Yeah. So now we know why it's Bernice's fault for him being arrested, because she knew he's molested before and still got him the job babysitting his cousin. The fuck is wrong with this family? Steve asks Verna if she thinks Stevie will molest again if he beats the charges, and she says no. Even though he has a fucking history of it. Like, I don't understand it.
I don't believe this is only like the second time or like the second person.
Like, Stevie could stab Verna and her last dying breath would be spent like blaming Bernice for it. Like, she's always gonna defend him.
His bitch of a mother.
Yeah. Later she calls her a prostitute.
Yeah, that's why I came over. I was like, who was she calling a prostitute?
I was like, oh, Bernice.
It made no sense.
Bernice finally agrees to talk to Steve, and when he gets there, her sister Wendy, who is the mother of the victim, is also there, and she's rightfully angry and going off about Stevie, while Bernice is just calmly standing there.
Honestly, her speech, like, I was like, fuck yeah, like...
So what we kind of learn is, yeah, maybe Bernice was abusive, but it seems she also had problems keeping him under control, so either he would run off, or she would just send him over to Verna. Who would just let him get away with whatever. It's really hard to know because Bernice and Verna hate each other, and Stevie will never say anything bad about Verna. Like,
right.
So it's hard to tell.
He's like a little kid caught in between like parents and a divorce.
Yeah.
And like they're both hating on each other, and he is just like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Big cause of why he's so fucked up. Bernice is like, I'll fucking smack a kid that backtalks, and Wendy's like, let it be known that her and I differ on this. Just...
I did appreciate Wendy, like, in a lot of these things.
Yeah.
She's like...
She kind of lets it slip that Bernice and her were raised where a lot of discipline was used, so it's definitely a generational thing.
Not just a lot of discipline, but like corporal punishment kind of discipline.
She makes a point to say just because that's how they were raised doesn't mean she has to do it the same way. So she's like, no, I'm not going to hit my kids.
She understands the effects of like generational trauma and abuse.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm going to end with me.
Yes. Just because they didn't end up in prison doesn't mean smacking your kid is the right way. There's no right way to raise your kid, but abuse certainly not it. Yeah. So yeah, the scene, like, Wendy starts off screaming about Stevie and his hard-on, and then is saddened to learn that Bernice never told him who his real dad is. Like, it's a roller coaster of emotions with this woman.
Which, like, I get it, because, like, holy fuck, if someone in my family touched my 8-year-old daughter, like, honestly...
She had every right to be there screaming, but then she's also like, this kid did not have a good life, though.
No, and that's it exactly. Yeah, she's
so
like,
sad.
She's so torn, because she's like, I know he's had, like, a shit childhood, and, like, his life growing up, and, like, that's part of why he is the way he is. It's very much like the whole nature versus nurture, like, clearly nurture has a lot to play into the way you grow up. Like, yeah, you know, you can grow up with, like, some issues mentally, but if you are shed on all the time, it may be worse, you know?
The next scene is just mwah. Verna parks and walks up to the cemetery to visit her husband Roy, while Stevie just straight up drives over burial plots on his ATV.
He's literally driving over dead bodies.
Just parks on somebody's loved one. Just a fucking dirtbag.
And she's like, you're gonna get in trouble.
Like, they ain't gonna say nothing to me about it. So Roy, who seemed to be Stevie's father figure, died of a heart attack when Stevie was 12. So it's just like constant notches on a list of things that fucked him up. And then a couple years later, Arvil died. But it also makes more sense, like, why she let him get away with so much, because he's literally all she has left.
Yeah, like
her husband's gone, her
son's gone,
like, definitely gone. And then let's just pile on by learning that Bernice at one point put him in foster care, like, just couldn't control him.
Yeah, she literally just, like, signed him over to the state.
So he's at a boys' home and became really attached to Dorinda and Hal Trovillian, who I guess were a couple that volunteered there. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, did they live there?
Boys'
They
homes
moved
work,
on?
foster
Like,
care. I'm not sure. So after 3 years, Hal gets another job, and they have to leave the boys' home. So now this is yet again another father figure out of his life. And with the next foster family that comes in, he suffers sexual abuse. So we've got the physical abuse, sexual abuse, lots of abandonment issues, behavior problems. He's just a powder keg.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly failed.
Like, anything that could go wrong in this kid's life,
Yeah.
like, has fucking gone wrong.
Like, they run out of group homes to place him in
Yeah.
southern Illinois. So eventually they just put him in a mental hospital in 1988. You know, during the Reagan years, where despite almost being murdered by someone suffering from mental illness, Reagan had no interest, like, funding any of it or better care, research, nothing. So basically, once he's 18,
Turned a blind eye.
out on his own. Pomona is such a small fucking town that Stevie's probation officer is also the general store owner. Don't know if you noticed that little information on there. I fucking can't with this. He's such a fuck up, but all these people in the town have known him since he was a baby, so they still seem to, like, coddle him. He goes to hang out at the post office, which apparently was still there in 1998. And it's not even a building per se. It's a trailer. And it made me think back to, was it Tread? Where, like, they could have just done it on their kitchen table. Like, you don't need a building for this. And Stevie and the new postmaster exchange a handshake that lasts just a tad too long.
But he's going to give him a chance.
And I don't know what's happened, but Stevie has tape on his glasses, like that black electrical tape at the bottom. I don't know what happened. The difference between Stevie and his sister Brenda are crazy. She's been happily married since 16 and employed since 18. And it's sad to find out that Brenda was Bernice and Arvel's child and was born soon after Stevie was kind of like
Pushed
kicked
to the side.
Yeah. So it does feel like once they knew they were having a child together, they're like, let's get rid of this kid. It's not even yours.
Yeah, start fresh.
Yeah, he's kind of just shoveled around. But Brenda did get married at 16, so I don't know. Things couldn't have been going great.
Well, no, and she even said that, like, her mom didn't really have, like, a motherly type relationship with her. And, like you said, she got married at 16. Typically, when girls get married young, it's because they want to escape their home life.
Yeah. So things couldn't have been going that great for her either. At least the guy she married seems like a good dude. Doug is great.
I have to say that I am fully, like, you know.
I love Doug. He's got a lot of patience.
Yeah, I have a crush on their relationship together. Like, she picked a good one. He seems very loving.
Awesome. We get a glimpse of Stevie's bedroom. There's motorcycle poster, Mortal Kombat 3 poster that I fucking love. What looks like a dresser with a gun rack on it. And not one lock, but two locks on that thing. There's like, looks like he added a padlock onto it. I don't know what the fuck. There's a dartboard, a teddy bear, and a giant pinwheel.
He's like a child.
I don't understand this room. I think there was a bare light bulb, and yet he was classy enough to have curtains. And then there was like another source of light, the one he like turned off that looks like an aquarium light.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
On top of like the gun rack. I don't know what the fuck that was. We head over to Murfreesboro, which is the county seat. Even though the woman lawyer got his confession thrown out, he didn't believe a woman would be able to represent him, so he asked for a new public defender. And I guess that white outfit he wore earlier is his nice clothes because he's wearing those again.
So he wears this nice clothes for burning?
It's a sleeveless white shirt with like white jeans, and he ties it all together with a Confederate flag bandana. And I think he had a bum bag on. I'm not sure. And he always has a shit ton of jewelry that never makes sense.
He's like cross earring, this like very 1980s dangly.
He's so weird. So the new lawyer's like, okay, here's the deal. Plead guilty to class 2 felony. You won't serve any prison time, just counseling. Or you're looking at 6 to 30 years.
Which, like, any
Stevie
sane
says,
person.
I'll think about it. And then threatens his aunt for talking to his sister.
In front of the cameras and
Again,
to a lawyer.
His aunt is the mother of the victim. And I'm sort of surprised his lawyer doesn't just like put his fingers in his ears and like, la 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 la, I'm not listening.
He's like, I'm going to have to advise you not to say that.
And then later he like threatens the DA.
He's like, it'd be best if you didn't say those kinds of things.
Steve talks to Stevie and gets his take on it. And Stevie tells him he doesn't want to have to talk to his shrink. He's basically given a get out of jail free card for molesting a child and doesn't want to take it.
Because he doesn't want to have to like do anything to change and better himself.
And he's saying this while wearing like a jean vest with no shirt, so I can't take him seriously.
I mean, did you ever take him seriously?
We move on to his friend Tim, who is the calmest motherfucker I have ever seen.
Tim is crippling depressed. Like,
yes. They're gonna go fishing, which
he's just like, it don't matter.
They're going fishing, which means Stevie has to wear camouflage.
So they don't scare the fish.
He doesn't want the fish to see him. He catches a frog outside of the post office because Catfish and Bass loves frog.
That man put that frog alive in his pants pocket.
He says he knows that, the Catfish and Bass loves frogs because he's smart. And then he puts the frog in his pocket, misses, because it just, like, hops right out of his hands. And you watch this grown-ass man try to catch a hopping frog while the stray dog is, like, wandering in and out.
And it's one of those, like, tiny little frogs. Like,
Although I don't think that's a stray dog, because isn't that the dog, like, later on?
When he's walking to the fish, yeah.
It's like, no, it's like a big-ass grown dog later. But yeah, it's a hell of a scene.
I died laughing. I paused it and I told my husband, I was like, this grown man just put a frog in his pocket alive.
They're driving in Tim's old truck and trying to get up the steep hill. The truck overheats. Tim fixes it, almost backs into a tree. And then they finally get it up the hill. Just almost hit that fucking tree. In a sea of trees. Tim complains about not being able to find any work. I'd say complain, but he's so calm, like,
He's so, like, nothing matters in life.
Yeah, his favorite phrase is, doesn't matter.
He must have said that, like, 6 times. I wanted to look and see, like, is he okay? Like, is he still alive?
He's just content drinking beer and fishing. It's frog time for Stevie, who discovers the biggest fucking hole in his pocket.
It was the whole bottom half.
It's like, I hope that frog's like in Tim's truck. It starts pouring and Tim's...
It's probably still back where he caught it. I can't believe he put a whole fucking live ass frog in his pocket. And it just
said huge hole.
And it just fell out of the hole at the bottom.
It starts pouring and Tim's just sitting there while he's so calm. There's a giant ass bug crawling on him.
It's a huge fuzzy caterpillar, and they make a point to even zoom in on it, like just crawling down his shirt.
Like, I hope Tim isn't a scumbag because I got a bit of a crush on him. Like,
I loved him.
You clean him up a little. He's fucking handsome.
He's not a bad looking dude.
And he's looking for a good woman. Brenda's having difficulty with pregnancies. She suffers from endometriosis, so she's looking into surgery, and she'll need to do in vitro after that if it's not, like, quick.
Which is fucking expensive.
The saddest line comes from her when she's talking about women who don't want their kids or abuse their kids like her mother, and yet she's having difficulty becoming pregnant when all she's wanted since she got married was to become a mom.
Which is so sad. Like... And then her husband saying, like, that he would rather have her, like he doesn't want her.
Yeah, he's like, I'd rather not have kids than you die.
Yeah, he's like, I just don't want her putting her life on the line.
And on top of all of it, she's got everyone around her not wanting her to get pregnant because, risk her life.
I don't understand why all of them went to her doctor's appointment with her.
I don't know.
Like, I would be embarrassed if I showed up to, like, my gynecologist and I had, like, my brother and my grandma.
And he's out in the waiting room pouring like a 1 liter of Mountain Dew into a cup. I'm like, just drink it out of the bottle. What the fuck? And then he's like ripping the label off.
Oh, that was at the hospital. And then did
Yeah.
he goes to the hospital and then he went out and climbed a fucking tree.
Yeah, get that. We'll get to that. So yeah, I feel bad for Brenda. She goes in for surgery to have an ovary removed, and she asks for her mom to be there at the hospital. Stevie also goes to the hospital and throws a fit about Bernice being there. And Steve's like, okay, but you need to get over it because your sister's going through some shit. Maybe you should get some counseling to deal with your mother issues. And that's when Stevie's like, nope, and runs away and climbs a tree in front of the hospital. Like, sir, this is a hospital, not a playground. But I guess if he falls, like...
He's in the right place.
There's a stretcher right up to the... near the curb. We're getting closer to the trial date, and the confession is ruled admissible. So even if he took a deal now, he's going to be looking at prison time regardless. He had a chance to walk away with time served.
Literally. He could have literally...
So frustrating.
Gotten, like, a slap on the wrist.
Like, had nobody grab him by the shoulders and, like, scream at him. We'll call them the Steves. They go to Lowe's to buy Stevie a birthday Christmas gift of a giant stereo.
Which I'm pretty sure I had that same stereo.
My next line is the shitty stereo we all had in our rooms.
Got that shit for my 13th birthday.
And despite Tanya insisting to her mother she would never get back together with Stevie, they're engaged now?
I thought they had been engaged the entire time.
Well, because at the beginning he calls it his girlfriend.
Okay, well, now my mind is blown.
My fiance.
Now my mind's blown, because I thought it was his fiance the whole time, because they never really, like, mentioned the fact that, like, they got engaged.
Then now Stevie has his own trailer, and I know what you're thinking. Is he classy enough to own one of those clocks that play animal noises on the hour?
Yes, he is. And also, it cost him, like, $37.
Did you catch the front of the trailer? There's no fucking steps at the door. How are they getting into this thing? It looks like steps, like near the end of the trailer. Like it looks like it might be steps, but there's no steps in front of the door.
They just climb.
So they gotta grab the sides and just like hoist themselves up in there.
They're working upper body strength.
Yeah. We do finally get some good news. Brenda's pregnant. Also,
I was so happy for her.
And her husband, Doug, is so fucking sweet. Like, he leaves her notes in the cabinet and then the
like,
bread
he
box.
literally wrote on the door.
Marker, but the
I
grammar
honestly
is not great.
No, but I would be like, so, like, I would be swooning.
Yeah, he's very, what was it? Bernice is like, I think he's in love.
No, she said, I think you got him, like, was it, henpecked?
Yeah.
I
been married for like 10
I almost
years.
said cockhold. I was like, nope. Yeah, cuckold. He's henpecked. All these, like, birds.
He clearly loves her. And then, remember the Macarena? Because Stevie drags his stereo over and they're just dancing in the kitchen of the Macarena. And then everyone's shocked when Stevie agrees to go with Bernice to church. Which, I don't know why it's shocking. Was that dangly cross earring he's been wearing this whole time just fashion statement?
It is, clearly. He's got like a little bit of like a Guy George thing going on.
Guy George. George Michael.
George Michael.
The fuck is Guy George?
Oh my god, why do I always get this?
And then in a week you'll text me and be like, this is where I got it from, like you did that one day. August 1999, Stevie and Tanya decide to come party in Chicago before his trial. She's like dressed up, wearing a pretty dress, got her hair done, and I don't know what the fuck he was wearing. He's got like jeans, a black A shirt.
What was that hat he was
weird
wearing?
Green. It's not quite a cowboy hat. I don't know what the fuck it is.
It looked kind of like a safari hat.
Yeah. He's got a cigarette just hanging out of his mouth, and she's like all dressed up. They're staying with Tanya's friend Trisha from high school, who's amazing, calls Stevie out on his racism. She suffers from cerebral palsy, so she's like in a hospital bed, and then when they go out, she's got to go in a wheelchair. And I'm completely shocked she allowed Stevie to stay there because she talks about being physically and sexually abused by her stepfather for 8 years before he was finally arrested. Like, this is another one where it just takes a turn
Yeah,
into
no.
being super
She
sad.
was my hero because she, like, literally, like, she was just like, how can you be with him knowing that he did that? Like,
She's like, I was abused. I don't trust men anymore.
yeah, she's like, he literally ruined my life.
And there's that awkward moment. She's talking about that crying.
And he
Stevie
comes in. And he just stood there. Like, he could tell that they'd been talking about.
Pause.
But she kept talking.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh shit. Like, she has, like, no fear. She's just like, he ruined my life.
Yeah. They have quite the time in Chicago. They go sightseeing, hit up the zoo, hang out at Steve and Judy's, which I saw an interview with Steve. They still live in that house.
Oh,
It's much nicer.
cute.
They did fix it up. And then they go to a museum? No, they go to a club.
I almost had a seizure just watching the strobe lighting in this
Who
club.
the fuck was the random Asian dude dancing with the girls? Like, he might have been a cameraman, but you never see him.
Was it Judy? Was that her name? Was it the girl's boyfriend, the friend's boyfriend? Because I know he said that she had a boyfriend.
Oh, I didn't remember hearing that.
Yeah, she had a boyfriend. She said? Pump me.
Trisha.
Oh, Trisha. That's what it
Yeah.
was. She was like, I didn't want to think of Trisha because of Love Is Blind, but
I think her name was Trisha.
so yeah, when they were walking into the zoo, she's like, "Pump me up," and he was like, something like, "I can't. You have a boyfriend."
Oh, I don't know. This guy just comes out of nowhere. Stevie gets fucking hammered because the club sees these cameras, so they just start giving him drinks on the house, which lead to him and Tanya fighting because no dirty dancing.
He's like, dude, also, like, I'm a little upset that, like, nobody, like, stepped in and be like, dude, back
Are you
off.
assaulting her?
Yeah, like nobody said anything.
very aggressive.
Like, she literally, like, he was assaulting her. He was, like, rubbing on her and stuff.
And
And,
she's
like,
saying no.
She said, like, she literally said no, like, 7 or 8 times. She's like, no dirty dancing. No, stop it. Quit. Like,
No
and
dirty dancing.
he just keeps on. I'm just like, bro, take a hint.
So Steve makes him leave the club. So Stevie pouts and sits on the ground in front of the club with no shirt on. What happened to his shirt? We never see. They're sitting there dancing, and then he's sitting on the ground, no shirt.
Maybe he did, like, a little striptease while he was in there.
I don't
for his
know.
little dirty dancing.
Shit goes downhill once they're back home. Stevie gets arrested over an altercation with the general store owner / probation officer and gets into a physical fight with his pregnant sister, and sweet patient Doug bans him from the house.
Thank God.
Brenda and Doug should
And he-
fucking moved far away as soon as they got married.
No, cut off the entire family. And I can't believe that, like, he cut off contact between, you know, Stevie and his sister, but, like, he still was willing to communicate with him. Like, he's still like, if you need something, you go to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, no. Like, he needs out of your life. Like, you guys are about to start a beautiful little family free, and, like,
Even Bernice is mad at Brenda because she wasn't invited to the birthing class, even though Brenda had a good excuse. Like, Bernice can't keep up with, like, the breathing exercises.
I thought that was so silly.
It was a dumb thing to fight over. Stevie has rejected the newest plea deal of 10 years, or 12 years, won't admit to being guilty, but is willing to plead guilty and have a judge decide his fate.
He's really just rolling the dice here, which also, like, his little, like,
And then
is what he said about rolling the dice. Like, in the room, and he's just like, what did he just say?
This is when we bring in the Aryan Brotherhood.
Oh, God. Okay, can we talk about his neighbor?
Because, of course, there isn't enough trash around here. I don't know what the point of this whole thing was.
These neighbors are so fucking weird. And then later with the baseball bat scene, like,
Yes.
like I was like, why are they talking, like, all philosophically, and, like, what is happening
Well,
here?
and what he said was if Stevie was found not guilty, which there's no way that's not happening, and if Steve gave the go-ahead, he would take Stevie under his wing.
It's like, why is he
I've
asking
seen
for
this so
Steve's
many
approval?
times, and I'm still like, I don't know what's happening. And since prison is involved, Stevie all of a sudden wants to be involved with the church and be baptized. Prison and tax-exempt status are like the two best things to ever happen to religion. Like, it's incredible. And the priest says the words. He's going to speak in tongue when God's spirit comes inside of him, which, I mean, when you meet a special guy who can make you feel like that, like, the least you can do is marry him. And of course he goes to a speaking in tongues church. Like, we hang out with the white supremacist assholes jamming again. This time that other dude is wearing a sleeveless Les Mis shirt. I don't like black people, but I sure as hell love that Jean Valjean. Don't tell the other guys, but when that man was there dying, this is the only time I've ever cried. Nobody clips the first part. Also, sorry for the spoiler of a 150-year-old book. Jean Valjean dies. Why is the racist dude wearing a Broadway shirt? I
am 99% certain that he got it at a Goodwill.
I did not understand that. And then Stevie goes to visit his old foster parents, Dorinda and Hal, who he hasn't seen in 15 years. He tells them about the most recent stint in jail, where he said he was going in on a $100,000 bond, and yet then he only needed $100 to get out.
Yeah.
That seems insane. He's got no problems opening up to them about all his arrests and jokes around, but when it gets to this one, he shuts down.
He's literally talking about attempted murder, and then he's just like, silence on his, like, current crime.
But it's a visit he really needed. He gets motherly love for Dorinda, and then gets to have that dad vibe talk with Hal. After that, Brenda is induced, and her baby girl is born with some respiratory issues, which fucking Brenda can't catch a break.
No.
Stevie postpones his sentencing so he could be there for the baby's birth. However, Doug's parents insist Stevie not be around the baby, probably because his history
Good reason,
with little girls. Stevie gets his first real job in 4 years as, you guess it, a carny.
I loved that part.
But I'm like, he's going to be around kids a lot. Like, I know he hasn't been, like, sentenced yet, but we're okay with
sex
it.
Offender.
It was the 90s.
Honest though, I feel like all carnies, like, kind of, like, give off that sex offender vibe anyway. Like, I'm not being judgy. I'm just saying that, like, allegedly, carnies are rife with...
No, they go on to be politicians. With 2 weeks to go until prison, he's hanging out with the guys after work, drinking, getting into fights. I do love the carnival lifestyle for him. Like, that fits.
He's like staying at a flop house.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, you got a house.
Steve's response to this is that he feels let down again, which, how do you think this guy felt when he was a kid and you were like one of many adults to abandon him? Like, how did you think this was gonna go? Stevie is mad that Steve interviewed Wendy, even though Wendy felt sorry for him. Like,
yeah, she wanted him to get help.
She even says she doesn't hate him, but obviously he doesn't know that. Stevie wants to go hunt rattlesnakes one last time.
Just
everybody calls me Snake.
On account I ain't afraid of them.
Except for when I was younger. God. October 27, 1999, the day before he goes off to prison. He's just hanging out with his family. Which, that sucks. He goes to prison right before Halloween. It's the best holiday. He spends a little bit of time with his new niece, and he says the weirdest fucking thing out of the whole film.
You got yourself a new face.
Got your new face there, don't you? What does that mean?
Also, I know it was the 90s, but was that fucking newborn drinking apple juice?
That's what I thought.
Like, I watched that part and I was like, holy shit, times have changed. Like, you don't feed your baby anything except for, like, formula or breast milk.
But the baby got its new face, so you can have apple juice.
You got that new face there?
And then I love that Brenda has to remind him to take off those sunglasses. Like, how did he forget he was wearing those huge fucking things?
They were the kind that go over your glasses.
It's the ones that make, like, the ones after eye surgery look fashionable. Like, those things are so huge.
They were as big as that one chick's sunglasses on love during lockup.
And then afterwards, he starts a grass fire and then drinks with Tanya. I don't know. And then the next day, we spend some more time with Verna, who really should have teamed up with Stevie when he bought his animal clock, because she has a bird one. Also, was she...
I keep thinking about when he was like, oh my God, was that an animal?
He's like, what was that?
He's like, oh, it's a leopard.
Leopard clock. Spent $37. There's so much shit on his walls, no matter where he lives.
Oh my God, I'm getting you one.
Please don't. So, yeah, at one point, Verna just goes, he can look so vicious sometimes, but I don't know if he could really hurt a kid. And the camera's panned on Stevie and the dog, and I'm like, which one is she talking about? And then it's just this long, quiet drive on the way to the courthouse. And then they have a quick lunch at McDonald's.
And Bernie's showing off her grandbaby.
Yeah. At the courthouse, prosecution asks for 20 years, defense asks for 6. Judge asks Stevie if he has anything to say, and of course the fucking idiot says no. Always apologize. Like, that's, even if you're not sorry.
Yeah, like, always
just apologize.
Always show sympathy. Always make a point that, like, your shit's been rough and you want to have a new start and you want to be able to get help.
Yes. So he sentenced to 10 years. The judge was going to give him 6, but because he showed no remorse, bye.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking idiot.
If you act like a tool, you get sentenced like a tool.
Yet again, a reminder that he had a chance to walk away with just counseling, and he said no.
Because he didn't want to have to talk to a shrink.
He gets one last chance to say bye to Steve and his mom, and actually tells his mom he loves her, which is a huge change from the beginning of this. He's like, I'm going to laugh when she dies. Tanya is tasked with clearing out the trailer because it's not paid off and has to be sent back. How the fuck are you going to move that damn thing? Like, it looks abandoned when he's living in it.
Oh, they have like a thing, like the little trailer thing that comes and picks it up. And you've never seen a mobile home being moved?
I have, but that thing just looks like it's going to fall apart. Like, how is it not paid off? Like, how much did that damn thing cost?
Probably like $1,000.
And then they're, like, filming throughout the empty house. What was that fucking chain in the bedroom? Like,
when you had to keep Stevie inside? I don't know.
There's just this random thick-ass
Well, it was
chain
weird that, like,
hanging from the
she
ceiling.
couldn't take all of her stuff with her, and, like, they just left all of it. Like, it looked like some kind of, like, abandoned, like,
it was weird,
haunted house.
Brenda ends up selling Stevie's trailer, her own, and Verna's house, and they move next door to Doug's parents. Smart. Verna moves into a retirement home. Stevie apparently became a huge William Shakespeare fan in prison. He's so bizarre. And then that's the end. So I know he served his full term. No good behavior.
No.
He's been arrested many times in Tennessee. The first time was August 1st, 2010, for failing to register as a sex offender. There's criminal trespassing, public intoxication, just constantly in and out of prison. The most recent thing I could find is an active warrant out of Louisiana for failing to register. I think it said he was homeless. I found his prison pen pal ad for when he was in Illinois prison, and turns out he's a feet guy. He goes by Possum now.
Oh my God, is it because he's not afraid of him?
Don't know. Verna lived to the age of 92 and passed away April 21st, 2007. And Bernice passed away on February 1st, 2015. And Brenda and Doug had another 2 kids.
Aww.
So, yeah. She got to have 3 little babies.
I'm so happy for Brenda.
So yeah, fucking love this film. And if ever a documentary deserved a sequel update, it's this one. Like, fuck The Staircase, Making a Murderer, like,
yeah, I need
Tiger
to know what's,
King. Like,
I need to know what's going on in Stevie's life.
I saw an interview with Steve James from like 7 months ago where he says he lost touch with Stevie since he moved to Louisiana. He has no idea where Tanya is. Like he said, he still talks to Brenda and Doug. He said Brenda and Doug were still together. Read a few things where Stevie might be in Oregon, but
it's wild.
So keep a lookout on Stephen Dale Fielding. I'm sure there'll be many, many more arrests. Between this and Wonderful Whites, like, thank God they were filmed when they were. Like, we don't need HD versions.
Look, his teeth.
Maybe to be able to, like, read what his little pins say. Like, what was the party one?
Born to Party?
Yeah. Maybe you'll see what those tattoos are. 'Cause the one looks like a turtle with flames shooting out of it. But yeah,
I bet he got more prison tats.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
We'll get a prison tat one day. From someone who's been to prison, not like when we're in prison.
Well, yeah, because he said he got it from a buddy who'd been in prison. I was like, you've been to prison. Are you sure you didn't get those in prison?
That's a solid documentary.
It is. I love it so much.
A little train wreck.
Just like all his little quips. People's changes.
Oh, boy.
Catfish and bass loves frogs.
He didn't even have the fucking frog.
I like, he's like, I'm smart. I know this because I'm smart. And then the fucking frog, like, jumps away, gets in his pocket, doesn't realize there's a hole in the pocket, and
That's the whole bottom half of the pocket.
yeah, it's not like a tiny hole. It's, yeah, just how is that thing still hanging on? And then fucking Tim, like, overheating the engine, almost backing it into a tree.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Couldn't find anything on Tim. I hope he found a good woman.
I hope he did. I hope that he didn't, like, die because he seemed real bummed. I was a little worried for his mental health. Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Oh, saw that one. Steve James said, like, a bunch of money that they got from, like, festivals from showing this documentary, like, he gave to, like, Wendy and her daughter, and I think he said, like, he kind of slipped up and said, like, when Stevie first got out of prison, they had, like, $4,000 saved up for him, and he just, like, tried to blow it all at one time. And,
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine Brenda wants to be his keeper of funds anymore.
No.
So that's rough. But I'm glad that, like, at least his victim got something out of this.
Yeah. But God, I wish we knew what was happening. But yeah, best documentary ever.
It's a good train wreck.
So we'll be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Doc to Me. The opening music is by Twisterium. For comments or suggestions, we can be reached by email at doctomepod@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at doctomepod and find a link to our Facebook group in the show notes. Thank you.